Hello, welcome to the Mediocre Takes podcast, the podcast where we share our mediocre takes on the shows and movies we watch. I'm Marco, and here with my co-host Mel. How are you doing, Mel?
How are you doing, Marco?
You know what? I guess I'll talk about this. So I'm actually doing not that great because I've been in the hospital twice for the past month. Um, so if you guys are wondering why we haven't posted in the past month, that's probably why. But I'm doing okay now.
We
So you know what?
definitely no, we definitely Marco, be honest with the people. We didn't post in March because you hate women and you were
Stop.
you were boycotting this month. And I had zero control over it because you took my control away because you're a man and
No,
I'm a
no,
woman.
no. You know what you said? You told this to me when I got into the hospital. You said the women have cursed me because they hate me. So it's not my fault. It's woman's fault. Okay.
No, I feel like you're wrong.
Well, you were the one who said it first, so I feel like you're
Well, the
wrong.
reason the women okay, if the women were to curse you, hypothetically speaking, it was because you did something to women. So now we're going back to the fact that you hate women.
Okay, fine. I'll say it. I hate women.
Great. Now I have a
I
sound bite of
just.
that.
Okay, please don't put that out of context. Anyways, today we're talking about Batman, Superman, Public Enemies. This is it's kind of a Batman film, but it's mostly a Superman film. So yeah, now let's get into it.
Okay, so yeah, this is an adaptation of the Superman Batman comic, specifically the first storyline, it's which is the Public Enemy storyline. Personally, I didn't read the comic, so I don't know how true to the comic this is. I do know though that the animated adaptation tried to copy the art style of this comic, which was nice, but we also sort of don't see that in the second Superman Batman film, which is kind of weird. This was a direct to DVD film, but it did get pretty positive reviews and it did make some pretty good money, so good for them, I guess. So, Lex Luthor is elected president during a national crisis. The country is at peace again until they find out that a kryptonite asteroid is heading straight to Earth. Juiced up Lex tries to let it happen, but Batman and Superman, along with some friends, save the day.
So my first note that I wrote when I was watching this movie is when Superman called Batman his best friend, I literally gagged. Like I was like, okay, he is not your best friend. Like let's be real. Let's be real for a second, because that is not how I see that relationship ever in any Batman Superman media. Like that's just not how it goes. You know?
It's better in the comics. I haven't
Is
read
it?
this comic specifically, but I feel like the comics that I've read that do have Batman and Superman interacting, it's not as edgy as this.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. But I just want to point that out because like every single Batman Superman media I've watched, they're like tolerable at each other or at least a little bit friendly. Like, you know? I just needed to point that out. I had a very different idea of what this movie would be. I thought it'd be a Batman versus Superman situation, which honestly I'm kind of glad it wasn't because I've heard how bad the Batman versus Superman movie was.
Can I say something about that? I went to go see Batman vs. Superman with our friend when it first came out in theaters. I fell asleep. That movie was so boring and horrible. But yeah, no, it's bad.
That's funny though, like the fact that you literally fell asleep because it was that boring. Okay, so this was kind of a nitpick I had. Why was there kryptonite coming out of this space for no reason? Like it was never explained. I have heard that the planet where kryptonite came from like was destroyed, and maybe that's what happened, and there was just like a meteoroid of kryptonite coming from that.
That's usually the explanation. By the way, the planet, get this, is called Krypton. Crazy!
That's kind of dumb, but I kind of love it. Yeah, I just feel like we needed a little tiny explanation. Lex Luthor becoming the president of the United States was my least favorite plotline. I will say I could see this happen in the DC universe. It's just not my favorite. Speaking of Lex Luthor, I love seeing Lex Luthor become mentally deranged in this movie. That was so crazy, which I haven't seen in many Superman related stuff. So I was surprised by unhinged he got because I personally have watched a bit of Superman, but I've never seen Lex Luthor act like that.
I mean, roid rage is a very serious thing that we should all take very seriously.
I feel like this was more of a Superman movie than a Batman movie. But now that I think about it, it makes sense because Superman is the one whose name is first in this movie. So I guess I should have seen that coming. Is the next movie more Batman or is it more Superman?
Don't be silly, Marco. It is more Superman.
Okay, I thought so. Oh, I was for the most part confused because I did not know who most of these characters were because I am not a Superman nerd. I don't mean that in a mean way. I'm just literally saying I'm just not a Superman nerd. Like, I don't know Superman as well as I know like other superhero characters. I only recognize two characters because one of them was from Justice League and the other one I think was Starfire. Speaking of Starfire, they did her so dirty in this film. You're telling me she chose to work for Lex Luthor? Like, what the fuck?
Oh my god, that's what I'm saying. Okay, so the fact that Black Lightning working first of all, working for the government, second of all, working for Lex Luthor, and then Starfire, those 2 decisions, personally, felt like a hate crime.
Like, give these people of color a break, you know?
That's the last thing we get.
Yeah, yeah. They could have at least added a mind control subplot or something. Speaking of which, they gave this woman no speaking roles. Like, she's quiet the entire time. Give my girl Starfire some speaking roles, please, next time. That really annoyed me.
Sorry, it wasn't in the budget.
I feel like there needs to be less fighting and more plot in this movie. There was just a bit too much for me. Like, I think the fighting was nice. Yeah, I feel like there's just too much fighting, and there needed to be a bit more plot structure in this movie. And I could see people liking this movie because of how much fighting there was, but I don't know. I just personally didn't love it.
The issue with that is I would say 70% of the film is fighting. Whenever they get close to like a clue or whatever, a fight happens right after. And like you're right, the fight scenes were good. Like all of the fight scenes in these animated films are good. But like there were just so many to the point where I was like, holy shit, like the storyline is being moved by the fighting, which was so weird to me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. The way Superman's character design looked did not look appealing to me. I don't know, something about it. I get that you said that you liked how it fit with the comic, but I personally just didn't find it that appealing.
Speaking of how the characters look, Power Girl, why are her tits so big?
Why is there a cut there of
Oh,
clothing?
oh, well, that's like her signature boob window. Okay. Like that's from her original costume design, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
And like I have nothing against like big boob superheroes, but there's just no way that that suit is fitting all that in there with a boob window. And it's all like secured down, you know? And also, but Power Girl, her eyes. Why do they look
Yes,
like that?
yes, I know, right?
Yes! Like, why don't the women get normal eyes?
Speaking of Power Girl, remember that scene where that boy was like talking about the X-ray goggles? That
Yes, yes.
that felt so weird. Like, I was so uncomfortable.
What makes it more uncomfortable is the fact that, like, before that scene, Supergirl says, like, one of the most pedophilic lines I've heard in a Batman animated film, which is, she says, "And he's not really that much of a boy, you know. He's 13." Ma'am, that is a child.
I completely forgot she said that. Oh my god. And then he also said that, "Are her boobs big?" Like, when they were saying, "Will this work?" And she's like, "Are Supergirl's boobs big?" And then before he can finish saying that, I don't know if it was Batman or Superman said, "Okay, we got it." Like, that was so
Yes!
nasty, gross,
Yes!
disgusting.
And I also hate how they made Toyman a child. Why did they make
Is he not?
Toyman a child? No.
That's strange. That's a strange decision. I feel like you would like this movie if you're a big fan of character references, and I mean that as an insult. Like, it gives Marvel with random character reveals, which is a really bad vibe. It gives me like conservative Marvel fan that doesn't even care about the meaning of the plot, just cares about like the characters and how cool they look, you know? It's giving I hate woman, you know? I feel like there could have been a really good character study between Batman, Superman, and Lex Luthor because despite Batman being a superhero, I feel like him and Lex Luthor are actually very similar in what they do in order to gain success in their field. So yeah, and I've heard that that kind of happens in the comic. You know what I mean? Yeah, you get it. I actually feel like the death of Metallo could have been interesting, but it was barely used in the plot. Like, I feel like it could have been an interesting mystery, but Superman straight up just knows who it is and exploits that, so that way the superheroes who are working for Lex Luthor will change their minds. The ending was kind of dumb. Like, it's just one giant mech of Superman and Batman going into space to destroy the kryptonite. I don't know why they did that. Like, they could have just chosen like a big spaceship. Like, he's smart enough to do that. And if he was supposed to be an adult originally, they could have just went with that. You know, I don't know, something about that just felt a little cheesy.
You know, it makes sense that the only time in which Lex Luthor would become the president is during a national crisis. I mean, look at what happened in 1933. Yeah, the animation felt a little boring, and the CGI the CGI is ugly. And unlike in Sub-Zero, I think it was Sub-Zero when like we first saw CGI. It was so obvious in this, and there was so much of it. Yeah, did you mention how everyone's abs looked fucking stupid?
Oh no, I didn't, but I do agree with you.
Everyone's abs look stupid. Why are they cut like that?
They also look exactly the same for the most part, you know?
Yeah, copy paste.
Yeah. Like change it up, switch it up. Yeah,
um,
also you don't even need to add ads in the first place. Like they can literally just be look regular, you know?
that is so true. There was a reference to the comic The Death of Superman when Batman says, "Your funeral," and Superman says, "Already had one." And when I heard that, of course, I chuckled because it was a very small reference that was just, I don't know, it was just so nice. Lex Luthor's not natty? You're telling me Lex Luthor juices and non consensually kisses employees? Clutching my pearls. Never would have thought a man like that would do that.
HR should call. I don't know what I was gonna try to say.
He fired HR. What are you talking
Oh
about?
yeah, yeah.
You think Lex First of all, there are two things I know about a company owned by Lex Luthor. A, there is no HR. B, they fire anybody who tries to start a union.
Yeah, you got a point. Sorry. I don't know what I was thinking, you know?
Oh yeah, and then the last thing I have to add. When Superman hits Lex and says, "Consider yourself impeached," first of all, cheesy. Second of all, could you imagine if it were that easy? Like, all you had to do was punch the president in the face and legally he has to retire. I think a lot of our problems would be solved if we did that.
Overall, I think this is just okay, honestly. It was kind of bad at some points. I don't know. I feel like the plot could have been better. There was way too much fighting. There were just some weird moments, especially with the way they talked about Power Girl's boobs. That was really strange. And also the fact that apparently he's supposed to be an adult originally. I don't know why they aged him down. That just sounds weird. Yeah, that gives me vibes of like those people who draw fan art of people who are younger and ship them. I just had to mention that because I've seen people talk about that before and I didn't know that was an actual thing. Yeah, this movie was just strange. It was badly plotted. It could have been better. I feel like there needed to be more of a dynamic between Batman, Superman, and Lex Luthor. I feel like there needed to be more like of a character study between them, and I feel like that would really enhance this film. So yeah, I don't really like it.
Yeah, all I have to say is, the animation I would say is generic. I do appreciate that they tried to replicate the art of the comic that this is an adaptation of. The fight scenes are really good, as all of them have been and will be moving on. And for me, this was just really a nothing burger overall.
Okay, Mel, I've been asking you this before, and I'll ask you again. If you were to predict your tier ranking of this, S to F, where would you put this on?
This is really tough, and this is something I'm gonna have to think about, like, when we do our final rankings, because I have to consider how I'm going to rank them, because my thought is, should I put the things that I really hate in F? And should I also put the things that I feel nothing about in F, you know? Because I don't think that just because I don't feel anything for a film, it should get a C. So for now, I'm gonna put this in D. I don't know how this is. I genuinely don't know where this is going to be in the final ranking, but for now, it's a D.
I actually kind of disagree with you in the fact that if I don't feel anything about it, it should probably go in a C. So for me, this is going definitely in a C. I could definitely see this going lower in the future. I feel like I'm just giving Batman movies more positive ratings than you, which is strange because usually I feel like I'm more negative than you in general.
But I feel like I'm more critical because I feel like I've just consumed more like DC media in general.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I could definitely see this going lower, but for now, I'm going to give it a C because I literally felt nothing really about it.
Well, hey, if there's one thing to take away from this film, it's to always make sure to never elect a man that will oh so obviously abuse his position of power. And make sure to vote in your local elections. They are just as, if not more important than the national ones. This wasn't a transition to the Mediocre Minute. I just really wanted to remind people to vote. Now I will do the transition. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Mediocre Minute.
That's so lame. I'm sorry. I kind of love it though.
No, you're supposed to say Mediocre Minute who?
Mediocre Minute who? I completely forgot about that part.
Mediocre Minute who? More like Mediocre Minute when, which is now. Because it's time for It's so stupid. I'm sorry. Because it's time for the Mediocre Minute, which is a tiny little micro moment where me and Marco recommend books, comics, music, games, and more for you all to check out. So, my recommendation is the most recent run of Batman Superman World's Finest. I have really been enjoying the series so far. It's strange that I don't like the dynamic between Batman and Superman in the animated and live action films, but I really do enjoy what these buff guys got going on in the comic. I've currently just read like I think issue 15. I'm on the elementary storyline, which has been pretty interesting so far. I love what happens to Bruce Wayne in it, and I love that it was Jimmy Olsen that did it. So yeah. Anyway, Marco, what is your recommendation?
My recommendation is a book that I read a pretty long time ago called The Space Between Worlds. This is a lesbian sci-fi novel. It's about this woman who is not really legal in the world she is in, because in all of the other worlds she's in, she dies. So it's about her illegally traveling through worlds, and while she's doing that, she discovers a secret that might destroy her and the people around her. So it's about her fighting against the system. I really like the romance. I really like what they did with the other world plotline. The romance I feel like could have been like developed a little bit better, but honestly I didn't really have a real issue with it because it wasn't that big of a part of the plot. There are doppelgangers in this book. I personally don't remember anything about them, but if you're into that, I strongly recommend this book. And yeah, anyways, you guys, that's our thoughts on Superman, Batman, Public Enemies. If you want to send us a voice message on Spotify for podcasters, there'll be a link in the description to do so below. We also have Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, which are I'm a Takespod, although we won't have a TikTok for long because apparently that's getting banned in the US. Anyways, that's everything, so goodbye.
Not the band.